Eccoci qua, buongiorno a tutti, grazie per l'attesa prima di tutto, ma l'evento è molto importante quindi forse vale la pena aspettare un pochino. Quindi grazie, buongiorno, io sono Giada Triola, sono responsabile comunicazione di Laica Camera Italia e è mio il compito di introdurre questo pomeriggio molto importante. Vi chiedo soltanto una cortesia, se potete, se non l'avete già fatto, spegnere il telefono, metterlo in modalità... Bravo Alessio! Quindi grazie, saluto voi che siete qua in presenza, ma saluto anche chi si sta collegando sul nostro account della nostra pagina Facebook di Laica Camera Italia, quindi grazie ragazzi di essere con noi in qualche modo. Insomma, stiamo cercando di ritrovare una nuova modalità, insomma, di presenza, di condivisione, di socialità, e quindi noi di Laica Camera d'Italia abbiamo pensato di farlo in maniera molto importante, con un momento di fotografia che crediamo sarà assolutamente straordinario. Abbiamo deciso di farlo qui alla Raffles Milano e il motivo ce lo spiega il leader course del Master di Fotografia della Raffles Milano, nonché direttore artistico della Leica Gallery di Milano, Denis Curti.
Grazie Giada, grazie a Leica, grazie alla Raffles. Sono molto onorato di poter parlare a nome di questo istituto e di questa scuola, e quindi ringrazio il direttore Franco Achilli che è qui con noi per avermi concesso questa possibilità. Io sono il course leader di un master internazionale di fotografia che è stato fondato 4 anni fa e che raccoglie studenti che arrivano da tutto il mondo. Questa è la politica di questo istituto della Raffles. Abbiamo attivato diverse collaborazioni attraverso un percorso didattico che dura 10 mesi e che coinvolge per ogni mese dei professionisti diversi. A curare uno dei moduli più importanti, che appunto dura 2 mesi, è Laica Academy. Con questa organizzazione abbiamo attivato una collaborazione importantissima che coinvolge i più importanti fotografi professionisti italiani e non solo. Il master è internazionale e quindi abbiamo anche fotografi che arrivano un po' da tutto il mondo e specialmente dall'Europa. Abbiamo molti altri progetti per il futuro che riguardano Laica Academy e che riguarda questo rapporto forte e che c'è proprio con la Raffles. Ma per parlare del futuro e di questa che io considero molto più di una complicità, vorrei avere qui con me Maurizio Beucci, che è il responsabile di Laica Academy. Grazie e buon pomeriggio.
Grazie Denis. Anche il mio vuole essere un rapido benvenuto a tutti, quindi grazie per essere qui, perché questo in un certo senso non è la mia prima presentazione, ma sono emozionato senza ombra di dubbio, perché il percorso di Laica Academy oggi cresce, si sviluppa insieme a Raffles in continuità con le attività di workshop, di masterclass. Vedo molti dei nostri docenti anche qui seduti, che hanno contraddistinto, hanno creato il DNA di Laica Academy fino a questo momento, unita adesso all'alta formazione nel mondo della fotografia, che per noi è un impegno nella formazione degli esperti del linguaggio fotografico e dei professionisti della fotografia del futuro. Quindi io ci tengo in modo particolare a ringraziare Franco Achilli, il nostro managing director Renato Rappaini, insomma, e tutte le persone che hanno messo i tasselli per poter costruire questa piattaforma che si svilupperà nei prossimi anni con tante grandi novità. Non voglio rubare altro tempo agli ospiti principali, ecco, che sono qui, e li ringrazio, quindi ripasso la parola a Giada Triola. Grazie Giada. Grazie a tutti.
Grazie a te Maurizio. Bene, quindi siamo arrivati al momento che stiamo evidentemente tutti aspettando e sono molto felice di introdurre la persona che condurrà questo viaggio molto bello. Sono molto felice perché insomma lui ormai non lavora più con noi e quindi viene a trovarci soltanto ogni tanto e insomma sono molto felice, orgogliosa e onorata di presentare il direttore del Global Marketing Communication di Leica Camera Germania, Andrea Pacella. Oh, ok. E l'avete visto tutti, l'avete già riconosciuto, naturalmente l'ospite d'onore. Sono veramente emozionata e con orgoglio che presento Mr. Steve McCurry.
Naturalmente Giada ha avuto un attimo di panico perché avremmo dovuto sederci esattamente in modo opposto, ma lui ha deciso che si sedeva lì e quindi di conseguenza io mi siedo qui. Grazie a tutti per essere qui, fin laggiù in fondo. Vedere una sala così piena di gente dopo tanti anni di Covid è una cosa abbastanza straordinaria ed emozionante. È la rinascita per noi, è ricominciare a fare eventi che sono sempre stati un po' il DNA di Leica, che sono stati un po' quello che ci ha spinti a fare sempre qualcosa di diverso, anche quando cerchiamo di fare delle attività di marketing per vendere le nostre macchine fotografiche, ma cerchiamo di farlo sempre dando spazio principalmente alla fotografia e ai fotografi. Voglio anche approfittare per salutare tutti quelli che non sono fisicamente qui con noi oggi in questo momento, ma che sono collegati via Facebook, e direi che possiamo cercare di cominciare. Steve, I think we can start. So it's time.
Pleasure to be here. Nice to see everybody. Thank you for coming.
It's another time that you are in Italy. So once again, you are in Italy. You were in Italy this summer. I got a picture from a friend, a common friend of us, of you in Venice, spending time there. And now is the moment to discover that you have been tracked in Italy, even when you don't know that you are tracked in Italy. Because someone spotted you somewhere in southern Italy, which started, and this might be one of the topics we should discuss, a sort of fake news. Because what I got, I found this. Steve McCurry per National Geographic sull'Aspromonte, in the fires. So you were really in the middle of the fires of the Aspromonte. But then I looked a little bit better to the picture, and I thought, I already seen that picture. Yeah, I really seen that picture. Yeah, it's when you were in China. So someone wanted to so desperately to show that you were in the southern Italy to take pictures that they made you there physically. What is your point? What is photojournalism in a period in which you can be even where you were not? What does it mean for photojournalism?
Well, I don't know. It's a very tricky thing. You have to really question, I guess, a lot about what you see and get your news from more than one source, I think.
Yeah, this might be better. Anyway, you have worked a lot for National Geographic, and you have worked a lot for National Geographic in places and situations where a lot of the news was about the climate change or something that was happening in those places that was a damage for the environment. And there was not yet the movement that there is today about this climate change. But you have witnessed many of these places. This is about Kuwait, and this is Steve McCurry in Kuwait during the fires. What was your experience there?
Well, it was really catastrophic. There was the whole region was full of smoke and oil. There were 600 oil wells on fire, and it really looked like the kind of the end of the world scenario. Literally for miles, the sky went dark. went black with smoke. And it really felt like, when you were there, it really felt like it was kind of the end of the world. Just you couldn't really move. There was this smoke, and I got very nervous that it would, injure my lungs, because smoke was every. It was, when you were asleep, when you were eating, the oil got all over your skin. It was very frightening.
This was a particular picture you took there. You was with your friend, I remember you told me, with Bruno Barbet, that left us recently.
Right, yeah. Well, we were actually in two different vehicles, and we saw these camels as we were driving through the desert, and we started realizing they were looking for probably a way out, or maybe find some food or water. So we followed them, and for 5 or 10 minutes, and eventually they were dark. The camels were black because of the oil, and so when we came to this fire, I jumped out of the Jeep and photographed, because you could actually, now they were visible because they were silhouetted against the fire. So it was one of the few cases where I could actually see them. Otherwise, it was black on black.
Same. I mean, a really great catastrophe, but from the fire to the water, you have done a big work on the monsoon in India, and one of your most famous pictures, but in the end also with the Hurricane Katrina. So again, what do you think it can be the role of photography to make people understand more and more how the climate change can be a problem?
Well, we need some people, some photographers or videographers, to go and sort of witness these situations and actually be the kind of the eyes and ears for us, and to actually see what's happening. Because without photographers or videographers or writers, we're not going to understand what's happening. Incidentally, when I was about 10 years old, I was looking through some old Life magazines and saw this incredible story by a New Zealand photographer named Brian Brake on the monsoon. And it really captured my imagination. And going through the magazine, I thought, someday I want to go and experience this monsoon. And in India, it's so magical and such a faraway place. But I thought, this is like an incredible thing. And I always dreamt about going to India and seeing this thing. And as 25 years later, I spent 4 months in the monsoon, up to my chest in water. So
the inspirational role of the photographer is still fundamental.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that when I was just starting out working on a newspaper, I thought it was so exciting to be able to witness important events and to tell those kind of stories on a daily basis. It was a thrill at 1 o'clock in the morning to see the newspapers rolling off the press, and to know that I had helped to provide part of the news.
I moved from this to this picture. This is I found it, this is the last roll of Kodachrome ever made. So when the production of Kodachrome was going to be disrupted, you have been called to be the one that had to take the last pictures with these, the last roll of Kodachrome, and then this great film would have disappeared. And you have decided to take pictures of photographers like Ara Güler, or you told me a magician, basically, or Robert De Niro. So how you set up your mind about what was worth of being taken? This. I mean, I think it has been an interesting encounter with him with this last role.
Yeah, well, because I had photographed with Kodachrome for 20 years, and we found out that suddenly Kodachrome was going to be discontinued. It was going to be stopped manufacturing it. And I asked for the last role. I thought, what can I do? How can I kind of honor the memory of Kodachrome? What can I do? This was an iconic film, and I wanted to photograph iconic places or people. So I thought, where can I, So I thought, okay, well, who in New York? I was living in New York. Who's iconic in New York? And I thought, I thought of a couple different people, and De Niro, of course, came to mind. So I thought, he's iconic. So I photographed him. And then I wanted to go back to sort of my roots, go to India and photograph some of the people there. I wanted to keep the theme of the movies. So I went and photographed some of the famous actors in Bollywood. And then I photographed a nomadic group whose way of life was coming to an end. I figured, their way of life is coming to an end. Kodachrome is ending. I thought that was kind of thematically interesting. So I spent some time with them, and then I went back to New York and photographed some pictures on the street. And then that was pretty much it. I went to, there was one lab left in the world. There was just one lab. And that one lab was in Kansas. Of all the world, you'd think it was in some very small town in Kansas. It was the last chance, the last lab. So I went and took the roll in, and I had 3 exposures left on the roll, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I had about 4 hours. So I was running around in the middle of the night trying to figure out what to do. Anyway, but I thought it was, and then as a result of that, they made a film about Kodachrome with Ed Harris, and
which is basically where Ed Harris practically plays Steve McCurry.
Yeah, so I met Ed Harris, and I helped to explain, the camera and loading the film and how to hold it, all that sort of thing, and.
Was it easy to explain him, or?
Yeah, he was. He's a incredible actor, and he was very down to earth, very nice guy. We in the film, he takes the film to the lab and has it processed and all that. So it was a great. I mean, for me, to be able to sort of have this homage to Kodachrome, and to be able to kind of say goodbye to it in a certain way, the Kodachrome 64 was a very slow film, and as I had a digital camera, but I was also using, and I realized that this was like an impossible film to shoot, especially indoors. You needed and I started adjusting the shutter speed, and I thought I was on a tripod. It was down to like a quarter of a second, and now you can shoot, handheld inside. But with the Kodachrome, I was wide open at a quarter of a second, which is you have to ask people to stand still, don't move. It's very cumbersome, but I did it anyway. But I just thought, this shift to digital and to be able to increase the speed is such a huge advantage, and it kind of frees you up in many ways to be able to work in kind of low light and get much better results.
So finally, someone who has not the nostalgia about the film and embraces the innovation and the advantages that come with digital photography.
Well, I think 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, you could make a case that the film was still better. First, let me just go back. I think if you want to use film, perfectly fine. It's great. There's no problem. I think it's a very personal choice. For me, I think digital is far superior. The X-ray machines at the airport, the worrying about the heat, carrying hundreds of rolls of film into a country and then freaking out like you're smuggling film and then trying to ship it back on FedEx. It was very, very troublesome. But I think the results now are, as I said, you can make pictures in light now, which was like never possible. I mean, again, you could use a tripod or lights, but sort of handheld, it was just an impossibility. I mean, you couldn't stop action.
It's I started from the Kodachrome because basically somehow color is your signature, and is incredible the way you are able to put together the perfect colors and the perfect geometries and the perfect composition to create a picture. It's something that comes you see it immediately, or it needs you to somehow work on it with your mind to really find the perfect color.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with being in the right place, choosing the right time. If there's, in the case of the one before like a festival, so you picked, you've made the choice about the location, the time, the event. So you're kind of stacking the deck in your favor instead of, so there's a bit of research involved. And there's also a lot of experience and just wandering, just looking around and discovering things on the street.
It's, then we will come back to Afghanistan as another team, but here is really about color and composition and a signature that your picture have. It's you take your time when you make your picture. I've seen you working. You move around the subject. You go further and closer, different angles. So you take your time to find the perfect composition of the image, where the colors can give them the best outcome.
Well, in the case of this picture, it's again, I think you're going to get better results with more time. And I spent probably about 4 or 5 months photographing every day in this place, Angkor Wat. And I was able to get out there every morning at sunrise, and then I was able to be there at sunset, and then basically everything in between. So with that amount of time and studying the location and the behavior of people and the monasteries and this and that, as the days and weeks go by, you start to learn a few things. And as a result, I think you tend to make better pictures based on... So if you go to a location and you photograph and then you think, well, I could have done that better. And you go back and you think, well, then you start sort of adjusting. And so you kind of continue to perfect the images and the situations and end up with something that you feel kind of does justice to the location.
So it means talent, yes, because you need to have it, but then commitment, dedication, and hard work to succeed.
It's more about hard work than talent. I think you can go very, very far with hard work.
which I think it's a good message, since we are in a school where people learn photography, and I think it's a right message to have. The pictures before were taken in film. These are newer pictures that you took in China in 2019, and so the moving from basically from your vision of color, as you told before, has not changed between going from film to digital. So basically, there is another thing that is interesting here. These are taken in a Shaolin at Shaolin monks in. This is an older picture. And then you have come back to take pictures today of the same places. What does it mean for you going back to places that you have visited before? How your vision or perception of the place changes or does not change when you visit the same place in different moments of time?
Well, I think you're never going to find the same thing that you saw when you were there the first time. It's always going to change. It's probably changed for the worse, because you have memories of how it was and all of that. You get there and everything's kind of different, and then you're nostalgic for the way it was, and then you're disappointed, and then you're kind of thrown off your game a bit. This is actually the same. It's a different location, same school. I mean, it's the same practice. It's just a different location. And so this was my first time at this particular school. It's the same,
environment,
same discipline.
Yeah.
Just a different. So, but I think that if you go back to places, it's. I never like to. I'm reluctant to go back to. Like Angkor Wat, for instance, I was there for several months. I went there many times. And I know from people that have been there in the last few years that it's dramatically changed. And I just don't want to kind of have that memory.
So,
I don't want to see it as it is now, because when I was there, over 20 years ago, we had like free range to go like anywhere and do anything. It was completely empty. There was no control. It was just like discovering it for the first time. And now there's hundreds of buses, and it's just a different scene.
Yeah, but anyway, your site is always good, is always great, because different ways, different picture, but still great images. We honored you by using your picture as one of the master pictures in our brand campaign that we made to say that basically the world deserves witnesses, and the photographers need to play this role of witnesses, which is something that you have done very well in your life. It's from few days. It has been 20 years since 9/11. You were there, and I can imagine it has been a tough moment for you as a person before then as a photographer. This picture has been taken actually while the Twin Towers were falling, and has been taken from your window. So that view of the Twin Tower is something to which you were used to, that you were used to see every day. And at a certain moment from the same window, you have seen it disappear. You have taken pictures of war in many places, but how is different? How was different? How it is been different when the war was in your home, in your house, in your city?
Well, suddenly, normally I would get on a plane and fly to an assignment, whether it was Afghanistan or the Gulf War, whatever. This was a case of going to the location, just walking down the street. First of all, I went up to the roof of my building, So it was literally like right where I lived. So, and then I spent the day and a half photographing it, which was, you know, like the worst day of my life. And for weeks after the collapse of the towers, the smoke would come up into the neighborhood, and it was everywhere. The smoke was, in your clothes and everything. You couldn't get rid of it. It was very disturbing, the whole thing. It was, and I would say for years, going out to coming back into New York from the airport, the skyline was empty now from the world. So and in my neighborhood, the World Trade Center was part of the sort of the neighborhood skyline, and it was gone. So it was really like a heartbreaking to every time you looked around not to see it.
Was it difficult not to be emotional while shooting, or you were emotional while shooting? Because when you go on assignment, you arrive in a place and you set your mind to try to be cold and objective. Even I think objectivity doesn't exist in photography, but you try to be a witness, as we said. Here you were both a witness and a victim as a New Yorker. So how was the pressing the shutter in that condition?
Well, I think you have to sort of separate. You have to try and put your emotions aside so that you can work. It's also almost maybe like a surgeon who is operating and maybe kind of loses the patient on the operating table, maybe through no fault of his or her own, but has to find a way to come back the next day, and also has to find a way to live his or her life despite the fact that this terrible thing may have happened. Somehow you have to separate the two things. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to function. But I remember thinking to myself, I just have to, put my mind on autopilot and just sort of let the kind of motor muscles kind of do the work and not think too deeply at that moment and kind of wait till later to let the thing process, because otherwise you just be kind of frozen in fear.
Yeah, can you imagine? It was an incredible experience. What I discovered that you have also become the character of a comics. There is a comics about 9/11 in which you are part, or the story, or better, the story is about you in this comics. This adds up to being becoming famous, not only a photographer, but somehow beyond that. I don't know. They were also showing an iPhone. I don't know if it was really. Yeah, it was an iPhone. Okay. 9/11 was the kick-off of what happened then in Afghanistan in the last 20 years. But you were in Afghanistan well before. So you are here with they were called freedom fighters.
Well, they were called Mujahideen.
Mujahideen.
At that time, it was this sort of farmers and shepherds fighting against the central government, because they felt that the government, along with the Soviet Union, was trying to change their way of life. And so they, got together and started to take up arms against the government. And then, of course, the Americans saw an opportunity to kind of stick it to the Soviet Union and create a Vietnam for them. But anyway, so I was there like 30 times in Afghanistan.
We were speaking about the colors as your signature, but your first pictures in Afghanistan are all black and white, or mostly black and white. So it's something that Steve McCurry in color, in black and white, is something that is not so usual. And you really spent a lot of time very close to them, also to take pictures of them in moments of, or moments like these, where there is also...
Yeah, they had made a rope out of like horsehair, and they were testing this rope by swinging on it. And it was, I thought, my God, if they...
Why did you choose to photograph black and white? Now, maybe the answer is simply because it's that's all the film that I found at the time. I don't know, but what was it?
Well, that was the only film I found, and some of the film was from East Germany. Was called Orwo.
Orwo.
Yeah, that was the only film I could find. So yeah, I didn't have much money. I was staying in cheap hotels. I was taking the bus long distances. Eating off the street, and so I didn't have much film, and I went in with just a pack with one change of clothes.
But then your most of your photography in Afghanistan is made in color, even of strange guys like these. What has it represented for you, Afghanistan, and what do you see as the future? What do you think might be now the future? You know very well that society, so what can happen now?
Well, I think that to me, I find it very discouraging. And you think after 20 years spending trillions of dollars, and you think how much like $1 trillion is, and how many schools and hospitals you could build. It's deeply depressing. I think that I can't imagine life under the Taliban on any level. They have no sense of humor. They have a problem with women. They have a problem with music. They have a problem with a lot of things which we think of as I think women should be, it's laughable to even say it, but women should be educated and be able to be in the workplace. I mean, that's, like obvious, but they kind of see it in a different way. And I my heart aches for all the children, all the young, kids who were going to school hoping to, be in a profession or something. I mean, that's sort of over now for them. And then also the minorities. You probably read in the paper just yesterday that a Shia mosque was there was like a couple dozen people killed because they happened to be the wrong sect of Islam. I mean, it's like that makes no sense. So you have these kind of mass murderers that are still operating there, and they're hunting down people who don't believe what they believe in. So imagine if they can't get along with a fellow Muslim. What about, what if you're gay? What if you're a Christian? What if you're a Jew? What if you're this or what if you're that? So I think it's deeply upsetting, and I think the story's long from over. I think that this is only another chapter, and in a few months or in a few years, there'll be another. I just the way the Americans left was just it boggles the mind to think of how kind of wrong that was, and how you would have smart people in government that their job is to kind of figure these kind of things out, and how they could have gotten it so wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I've put some pictures which I find incredible. that you have taken in Afghanistan, especially about women. I have purposely not put the famous picture of Sharbat Gula because we have seen it too many times and people has asked you a question about it too many times. But anyway, a lot of people knows that picture and a lot of people, no one knows really that after that picture for you has started a sort of commitment to young women in Afghanistan. With your sister Bonnie, you have created a school and a foundation to help these young girls in Afghanistan. And as you told me, from a couple of months now, you don't know anything about it. School has been closed.
Well, the school's closed. The photography program we had there, the teacher the administrator has now, she's fearing for her life. It's crazy, basically the program is disbanded, but we're still helping Sharbat Gula. We're helping other people there. Things have to be discreet and kept confidential for obvious reasons, but we are doing the best we can under the circumstances. 10 years ago or 12 years ago, we had bought her own home and put it in her name. So this property was in her name. And then the Pakistanis decided to crack down on Afghan refugees, and they arrested her, put her in jail, and it sort of made an example out of her. And the kind of the blowback from that, the PR was the heat was so intense that they let her out of jail, and she just said, I want to leave the country because it was so disrespectful to somebody who had lived in that country for 20 years, and through some mistake in her identity papers, they decided to put her in jail.
We have seen, again, it has been a country you have visited a lot, where you found also some colleagues. Yeah. He was very proud to show you his camera and
that process, you're able to, in that box, you expose the paper, and then you develop the paper, and the whole process takes place in that box. So you actually get a print. You walk away with actually a print, a piece of paper with your picture on it.
I know this is one of your favorite pictures of yours.
That's a studio. That piece of black cloth is a studio.
This is the last picture about Afghanistan, but I put it because I was speaking about the color before, but in a lot of your pictures, the real subject is the light. Like in this picture, there are many of your pictures in which there is a sort of Rembrandt or Caravaggio light, and it has become it's a sort of trait that connects most of your picture wherever you go. Like in this one, and for me this one is the connection to ask you about another love of your photographic life, that was India. You went there in 1983?
79. 78, sorry.
Oh, and this is one in 83 because with the book of Paul Theroux, you went to discover the railroads.
That's right, yeah.
And it was, you did all, again, a younger Steve McCurry. We pass you in many pictures, so we give you a context of the time passing by. Trains have been, you have taken months, spent months with
Long
trains.
time, yeah. I went from the Khyber Pass on the Afghan border all the way to Pakistan into Chittagong on the train.
You risk your life to take this picture.
The assistant was holding my legs as I leaned out the window. And it happened very quickly. He said, "Oh my God, you can't, the door's locked." He says, "They're passing our breakfast on the outside of the train." And I said, "Oh my God." So I actually leaned out, he held my legs, and I probably only made like 3 pictures or 4 pictures.
It would have been the right moment for your assistant to ask for a raise in his salary in that moment.
Well, it was the first day we worked together.
Oh. You mean that you fear that when they work for you for a longer time, they let you fall?
They let me go, man. Fuck this guy.
But there is a poetry in your pictures of trains, and I have chosen the ones I like more. But I think there is a full book that you made about trains. And what is so special about India?
Well, India has this ancient culture. It goes back thousands of years. It has extreme wealth and extreme poverty. It has the Himalayas. It has deserts. It has, variety of religions. There's, Hindus and Christians and Buddhists and Muslims and Jains and Farsis. There's a huge, and it's just all these people kind of pressed together, and there's festivals and people living as they did hundreds of years ago, and other people living very in a very kind of luxurious way. A lot of money there, a lot of poverty, and a lot of wonderful people who you can engage in great conversations. On those long train journeys, we'd have go on about philosophy and the meaning of life and all this kind of stuff. It was really interesting, and it's always fascinating to go by train or strike up conversations with, because you have up in the Himalayas, it's sort of like Tibet, and then in the northeast, it's sort of like Burma, and then in the south, Sri Lanka and the Tamils, and then in the west, you have the desert, and the people are kind of more nomadic. So there's an incredible richness of depth of culture.
It's visually fascinating. It's visually rich. It seems that you just can point your camera anywhere, and you get a picture. Yet, most of the pictures I see taken in India are boring and cliché in respect of yours, that are always have something magic. How difficult it is not to go for the easy way when you are in these countries that are so visually rich, and try to do something more than simply be excited, but the colors and what you see, and try to make something more.
Well, again, I think it goes back to spending time in a place and having to kind of work through the different levels of. I remember when I first got there, I suddenly realized that even though it was very exotic, there was no guarantee of making good pictures, and I started to work and take time, and I think for me it's just a question of work and time and studying the place, and like this particular picture here, I probably was on train platforms like that hundreds of times. And that particular morning, this is probably, I don't know, probably before 7 o'clock, waiting for the train. And this wonderful light came in, and I was just, making pictures. And it turned out to be one of my favorite. The guy's reading and these long shadows. But again, it's just a question of investing time and not being satisfied with the kind of the easy picture.
Even because maybe 10 centimeters on the left or 10 centimeters of the right, the composition of the picture changes dramatically.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why you need a good motor drive.
This picture brings me to the next question, because as you said, the guy was reading. And reading has become a subject for you. So you are collecting pictures of people reading everywhere. So my question is, especially for someone like you who travels the world, that does different works, different assignments, works on different topics, how important it is to have in your mind a few themes to whom you can relate and maybe can help you to find something that makes sense along time and along the places. I know that you do it with people sleeping. I still remember that we were almost arrested in Singapore because you were shooting someone that was sleeping at the airport. So, but there are some of these themes that you keep working on from time to time. How is important this? And not only for you, but also for anyone who is interested in photography, instead of taking picture randomly, just to have some themes, some ideas in mind.
Well, yeah, when I have certain themes or ideas or subjects, and maybe there's like 20. And Andrei Kertész, who was a wonderful Hungarian photographer who lived in my apartment building in New York, did an incredible book on reading. And it were people reading in Paris, New York, and different other countries around the world. And that had kind of inspired me, along with Elliot Erwitt, who did a book on, done more than one book on dogs. So they have these sort of themes or these subjects that they kind of look for, with the idea that perhaps someday they'll put it together and make a book which shows sort of the relationship of people doing this particular activity. So this is actually in Rome at this very famous cafe. I had a cappuccino with Erlo there a while back at 30 euros.
Cafe Greco.
Yeah, like you got a shock of our lives.
Yeah, because this can seem a snapshot. But if you look at it, it's a perfect composition, is a perfect construction. Every element of the picture is in the right place.
The ledge is gone. Where he's sitting and that pack of cigarettes, they've actually removed that little ledge. Yeah. I looked at it. I looked at the picture, and this wonderful sort of, the part on the right, that's gone, and the ledge is gone, and I don't think you can sit there anymore in the back. So.
But you were pointing him, or you just saw him?
No. I just saw. I saw the dog, and I thought, how amazing is it to see a dog that can actually read the newspaper?
I mean, I think your friend Elliot Erwitt would have liked to take this picture for a book about dogs.
No. He I think so. Yeah.
So this is Greece.
For me, it kind of almost works. It's about 90% there. I think it's pretty successful, but you can see the dog who's
chasing the cat.
It's a little. The dog is a little bit hard to see, but this is in Santorini. From a couple years ago.
But even here, if you look, the face of the cat, the face of the dog, the action that develops in a picture that seems about peace and quiet, it's incredible. This is what I mean. When someone looks at your pictures, there is always, you have the first sight, and then you look in the picture and you also discover something different. It happens also to you to discover something after in your picture when you edit, or it's always that you see it through the viewfinder?
There's a lot of times when I'll see something later, somebody will point out something, and I'd never seen that particular element. So
this is again was China. This is peace and tranquility, but it was a Zen monastery, so it was easier to find peace and tranquility. I mean, here you didn't need the motor drive, I guess.
Well, this is a statue in Ibiza, and I was driving around and I do this reading theme, and I saw the statue of this man reading, this kind of iron statue, and I was framing this cat ran by. There's actually several frames in different positions of the cat, but I picked that one because of the balance.
Because if you have a theme in your mind, somehow things like this come as a gift to you.
Yeah.
Because you recognize that there is something that was almost if they had put that there for you.
Right. Another theme of mine is couples. If there's couples on a park bench or couples here, couples there, that's another thing that I see, and I'm always drawn to that intimate moment. And
yeah, so this is Cuba. But again, everywhere you go in the world, this is the theme. I think it's something that should be important to keep in mind for everyone who loves photography and wants to think how to develop something sound, even if they don't have the time to work constantly on a project, but to have an idea that they can do even in spare moments. And then we have the one that sums reading and couples.
I had to go back to the other one. I met a student somewhere who had photographed the same guy in the same position, like some years before.
Hope at least it was a different book.
I think it's the Quran. I think the guy's reading I think it's the same book. I think the guy studies the Quran.
No, I was meaning then we have both reading and couples.
So I spent about a month and a half with this family in Budapest, and I was photographed every aspect of their life. The kids in school, working, eating, what they did on the weekends, the shopping. I mean, literally everything. And then I said to them, I want to get a picture of. So I was familiar with all the rooms in the house. And I said, I want to get a picture of you. I wanted to get a picture of that small television. So they agreed to let me photograph them once they were in bed. And so I made the pictures, and then I left.
I know that Kappa was saying that if the picture is not good, it's because you were not close enough, but you were maybe too close in this case. I close with one picture that you are very proud of. I think this is the Hermitage.
Yeah.
And you found these cleaning ladies that were looking and commenting your pictures.
Yeah, I loved it because they were cleaning the room in the museum, and they just were going around looking at the pictures, which I was very honored that they would be interested in the work.
This brings me to one of the last questions, which is, you started to work for magazines like the National Geographic, for newspapers at the beginning, then on magazines, and since many years you work only for books and exhibitions. How changes the approach of a photographer when you know that you are not working to put, 16 pictures on 12 pages of a magazine, but that you have to fill the rooms of the Hermitage with your pictures, even when you make a thematic exhibition, because most of your exhibitions recently are thematic, where you work both on your archive, but you integrate with new pictures. So how is working for a photographer within mind a book or an exhibition? Is the same book or exhibition, or even there they are two different things?
Well, I prefer, I think in the beginning, I needed to make a living, so I had to, do assignments. I think you're always, when you have an assignment, you're always part of you is trying to please the magazine because you have a limited amount of time and there's a story that basically they want to tell. And there's not maybe a written out list of what they want you to shoot, but it's an unspoken kind of thing where you know what they want or what they need. So it's really more about trying to fulfill the assignment as opposed to just being free to explore the place and photograph what interests you personally. Because what interests me personally, if I went back to the magazine and said, I made this wonderful portfolio of places I love, I'd never get another assignment, because maybe I wanted to photograph just portraits, or maybe there was, cracks in the sidewalk, or, and they want their own thing. So for me, at this stage of my life, I would prefer to just photograph in my own way and my own style. And if I want to sleep sleep late, or if I want to take a long lunch, or I want to I don't have to worry about an editor, kind of breathing down my neck, or I don't have to, so I'm just literally just trying to absorb the place and photograph it to kind of please my own sort of creative impulses. I know I've had situations where I go back and the editor says, "You took too many portraits. What are you working on a book?" I said, "Well, yeah, exactly." I am sort of. No, I'm joking, but the idea was that they want you to spend your time, working for them, and that's the bargain. I mean, you have to be, that's you agree to do it, so you have to be, But I think I would prefer to do my own thing.
I think you earned the right to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're not around forever, and I want to, at this stage of my life, just try and enjoy my life as much as I can, and not have to worry about, shipping film back and all that kind of stuff.
I think you deserve it, and you earned that right. I know that there have been many questions arriving, even from the people who is following us on Facebook. We don't have the time to answer all those questions, but there was one question that was interesting because we know each other since more than 15 years, and in these 15 years I met you hundreds of questions and about photography and about everything else, but I never made this question. I think it's really relevant. Today you are a star, you are a master photographer, you are seen as a reference by many people who loves photography, or by many young photographers who want to grow. And you are a legend for them, you are a reference. But you have been young, you have been a young photographer. Who were your references? Who you were looking at for inspiration when you were a young photographer?
Well, when I first started studying photography, and my first kind of class in photography, there were all these photo books, and the ones that I was kind of drawn to were the books by Henri Cartier-Bresson, Elliot Erwitt, Cortege. And they were photographers who were, again, more kind of photographing their world, wandering around, just these sort of little snapshots of human behavior and human interaction and the world as it is. And Eugene Smith was a big inspiration, Dorothea Lange, Bill Brandt, Ouija, Kappa, Rene Burry, Eve Arnold, Imogen Cunningham. There were a lot of minor white. I was always drawn to the black and white photographers. I guess in color there was Ernst Haas, and I looked at Life magazine. But for me, the photographers who I was most drawn to were the Magnum photographers: Bresson, Elliot, Rene, and some of those people. And I just was like, wow! I thought this was like the most amazing thing. I thought if I could do that as a profession, as make a living, to travel, and this would be like the perfect life. And in some ways, it has been the perfect life to be able to go to a place like, Tibet or Japan or Italy, or wander the streets of New York, or photograph my daughter. A lot of times the best pictures are just nearby. It's been it's been amazing and then to kind of witness all these historical events, to have a kind of a front row seat, and to kind of, it's been just been great. So I'm and for me, I'm still out there working away and trying to make the next good picture somewhere.
Well, I don't think we can. I could make another question after such an answer, because it sums up everything that we would have asked to listen to you, Steve. It's time, but I don't know how to thank you for taking the time. I'm sure that everyone who is here and everyone who is seeing us through Facebook has had a small possibility to understand not only what a great photographer you are, but also what a great person you are. I am personally honored to be your friend, even when you were not using Leica cameras. It was incredible to me when we talked 2.5 years ago, and you told me that you were interested in testing our cameras, and I'm so happy to know that you feel these products that we craft with so much love and dedication and commitment, as you have been able to see when you have visited the factory in Wetzlar, are the tools that you use to write your incredible picture. So
that picture in China was a real picture, not the one with the fires, but that was actually out there with the SL2. So that part of the picture was real.
Yeah, I know that was real, and I know that you like it, and I know that you think that we have done a good job making a tool for you. We were in Wetzlar 2 days ago, and you have seen with such pride all the people in the factory was looking at you, and you were passing with your Leicas on your shoulders. They were feeling proud of being able to build a tool for a master like you, and I think this is the most important thing for us. So thank you very much. Thanks from all of us, and thanks to everyone who has attended.